Welcome back to another Java tutorial, and today we're going to be using print statements to print an arrow like this. We're going to ask the user for user input. In this case it could be 0 and 1, and we're going to print an arrow that will be facing to the right. So right now we're in an empty class called example. We do have one method, which is going to be the main method. We're going to be writing all our code in there. And then at the end of the day, we're going to have a program that prints this arrow using user input. So the first thing we need to do, we need to have a scanner so we could ask the user for like an actual input. We could do scanner. scnr is going to be the name of the object equals new scanner System.in. So you really don't have to understand what this line of code does. We're just going to use this scanner, which you can name whatever. I'll just name it scanner because it's short for this, to get user input. And then we're actually going to need like two variables to actually hold the user input. In this case, we're going to call them integers. We could do integer int, let's do int body. You do int body, and then we could do int head. So we're going to ask the user for like a number to represent the body of the arrow, and then we're going to ask the user for a number to represent the head of the arrow, which would be like the triangle part. We do int body equals scanner, which we named the scanner right here, scnr.nextInt. In this arrow right here, the computer really doesn't see it because it's commented out. That's why it's green, so we don't even have to worry about it. It's just there so we can like format our print statements to make it look like it. And this line of code, we're asking the user, which would be in this case me, I'm the user of the program, or you. We're asking, hey, enter the next integer, and we want to store them to the body variable. Say I enter 1. That 1 is going to go inside a body, and it's going to make up the body of the actual like arrow. And then in the case up here, the body variable, which would be 0, and the head variable, which would be 1. And if we have that, that's how we would get like this actual arrow printed. But first, we're just getting user input, and then we could focus on like actually printing the arrow. We're going to do the same thing, scanner.nextInt. Okay. So now we're getting user input into the body, into the head variable. So that was like the hardest part. Now we can start using print statements to actually like print the arrow and format it. So we could do, in Java we print something out, we could say System.out.println. LN stands for new line. Okay, so now we have a print statement. And if we look at the actual arrow here, we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 empty spaces before we get to the first like the first variable of the head. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because we want the like the actual arrow to like the example. And then we could do a plus. And we want to put the first like a variable of head, of the head of the arrow, which would be named the head variable. And this is the first line right here. I did 5 empty spaces because we have 5 spaces and then the first number. Okay, so let's do System.out.println for new line again. And it would almost be the same thing. It's going to be 5 empty spaces, but then after the head variable, we have another head variable. So we're going to copy the first part because we're going to reuse the first part. So this prints all the way up to here. We just have to like print this other there's another number. In this case, the other number, which would be stored inside head again. So we can do plus head. So this line of code prints the first 5 empty spaces, and then prints the head variable, which would be this 1, and then prints another head variable, which would be this other 1. Okay, so we're done with it, these first 2 parts. Let's keep going. So far we're doing pretty good. So you do System.out.println new line, and in this case we're gonna just have like empty like I think those are one of those parentheses. No, what are these called? Quotation marks. These are gonna be called quotation marks because we don't want to add these numbers up together because we're actually gonna have like start printing like the base of the arrow. We could do plus because if we don't have these, it's just gonna add them up together and we're just gonna get a number. It's not actually gonna print like the actual integers to make the arrow. So we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're gonna have 5 body variables. So we can do body plus body plus body plus body plus body. That's 5 body variables. And then we're gonna have 3 of the head variables. So we could do, I'll explain it right now. I'm just kind of doing it. So the empty space, so it doesn't add these. Remember, these body variables are going to have a number. If we don't have this empty space, it's going to add them up. In this case, it would add up to 3 because we'd have zeros and 3 ones. And remember, the body variables correspond to what the user enters for the body of the actual arrow. In this case up here, it would be 0. So this will print a 0, a 0, 0, 0, and 0, which would be these. And then the head corresponds to like the head of the arrow. In this case, it would be 1, so it prints 3 ones. Let's actually run the program to see how far we are. We have the body first, which would be, let's match it up to this right here. So we're asking for the user for the body variable first. So we do 0, and then after that, it's going to be the head variable, and then it's going to be 1. So this is what we have so far. We entered 0 and 1, and we're up to here on the arrow, which is about right. So let's just keep going. If we look at this next line of code, it's the exact same thing as this one. We're just adding 1 extra of the head variable. So I'm just going to copy it, and then add 1 more head variable. And then if we run that again, 0 and 1, you see that like the actual arrows like actually come to life. So we have that. And then this line of code is actually the same as the third one, which would be this one. So I'm just going to copy. There's no point in like rewriting it. If we look at like the print statements, it actually look like a little arrow. This would be the top, and this would be like the little sides. And this line of code, no wait, so we have that one down, and these 2 ones, which would be the same as these. I'm just going to copy that, because once we do up to the first half, we're done. And this line of code right here is going to correspond to this one, and then we're pretty much done. Like I said, this like these print statements, if you actually look at them, it actually looks like a little arrow. Let's actually run the program. We can do 0 and then 1. And let's make the console a little bigger so we can see it. And there's our little arrow right there. Let's actually run it one more time. Let's do some weird numbers. Let's do 4 and 8. And it'll make an arrow. It doesn't look so good, zeros and ones, using 4 and 8s. And there's an actual program, and if this helped you at all and you enjoyed, just leave a like and subscribe.